The Wayfarer Finch drifted like a stunned fish in the pale blue murk of the Halberd Nebula. The engine's heartbeat, normally a steady thrum through the deck, hiccuped, coughed, and went still. Warning glyphs crawled across my cockpit glass in accusing red. "Come on, don't do this to me now," I muttered, palming the throttle. Nothing. No thrust, no bleed, no hope. The nearest help was a scrap ring called 9 Needles, a lopsided carousel of gutted hulls welded into a circle around a rust-brown asteroid. I burned the last of my maneuvering gas to limp there, snapped the docking clamps by hand, and swallowed the sour taste of panic. No engine meant no delivery. No delivery meant no food. That equation's universal. Docking secured. The station AI crackled with bored static. "Welcome to 9 Needles. We do not extend credit and assume no responsibility for hulls lost to gravity." Charming. Scene 2, the mechanic with the shooting star eyes. 9 Needles main bay smelled like warm metal and someone else's sweat. Riveters rattled. Sparks fell like gold rain. I found the first mechanic sign hanging crooked above a kiosk stacked with seized bearings and cracked manifolds. No one stood behind the counter. Just a milk crate with a bell. I dinged it. A flat voice replied from somewhere knee-height. "If that's a coleus core, don't ring that unless you like being laughed at." I looked down. The speaker was 4 feet of sinew and oil-stained overalls. Her skin was the green of old copper, freckled with silver. 2 delicate horns curled along her temples like punctuation marks. She squinted up at me with eyes the color of shooting stars. "It is a coleus," I admitted. "Half-burnt. Jace." "Kiri," she said, wiping her hands on a rag that left them dirtier. "Bring your dying bird." She moved like a problem already solved, snapping a grav sled under my engine crate before I could lift a corner. In her shop, tools hung in precise rows. The only chaos was the music, some percussive stanic rhythm that shivered the air. Kiri peeled the cowling off my coil core and whistled. "Explains the silence. You don't have a crack. You have a canyon. What did you run through, a shard storm?" "Only the nebula," I said. She was singing sweet till she wasn't. Kiri's mouth hooked. "Nebula songs are siren songs. Give me 6 hours. Or 3 if you can keep your mouth shut and your hands where I point." "I can do that." "You'll owe me," she added, slipping on magnifiers. "And not credits. Credits spend, debt binds. Stanic guild law." I laughed like I understood the joke. "If you get me moving, we'll talk." "We won't talk," she said, smile sharp as a cutting torch. "We'll sign." Scene 3, sparks and silence. We worked. Or rather, Kiri worked and I learned to pass tools without asking questions. She hummed to the engine in a language like wind finding narrow places. She chased hairline fractures with a micro-welder steady as a surgeon's pen. When the core refused to reseat, she swore soft as a prayer and adjusted the mounts by a hair's breadth I wouldn't have noticed with calipers. The hours slid past in rivulet sounds. Coolant drip, torque click, heat shield hiss. I fetched plates, held light, burned my fingers once and pretended I didn't. "Your intake siev's a joke," Kiri said at last, smearing sealant along a seam. "I'll cut you a new one from a canister shield. It'll sing in the nebula instead of choking on it. You do poetry now. Metal's the only poem worth the effort." By the time station night cycle dimmed to a cool violet, Kiri wiped her brow and snapped the cowling closed. "Try her." Back aboard the Finch, I laid a palm against the throttle. The engine stirred. The deck thrummed. The old girl's hum rolled up through my bones like relief itself. "Whew. You're brilliant." Kiri's eyes warmed briefly. "Of course I am." Scene 4, the claim. I turned to offer her dockside payment and found her already aboard with a dented trunk under one arm and a bundle of braided fiber under the other. "Ah," I said. "What are?" She shouldered past me, small as gravity but twice as inevitable. "Stanic Guild law. Payment is shelter rights until my imprint fades." "You're what?" She popped the latch to my modest cabin and looked around with professional disdain. "I tuned your engine with my resonance. Your ship carries my hum now. If I sleep too far from it, I'll lose hearing for a week and fine touch for a month. Dangerous for a mechanic, fatal for a guild member. I'm claiming your bunk. You could have mentioned this before you bound your resonance to my ship." She tossed the braided fiber, her bedroll, onto my bunk like a flag on a hill. "You could have not broken your engine in a nebula. We all make choices. I only have one bunk." She blinked, then pointed to the floor. "That's a floor. You're asking me to sleep on my own floor." "No. I'm telling you I will be in your bunk. Where you sleep is your choice." I rubbed my eyes. "How long does an imprint last?" "Few cycles. A week if you keep flying poorly." A grin, this one teasing. "But it's not all tragedy. I'm an excellent bunk neighbor. I don't snore much." Scene 5, Terms of Truce. We negotiated. Which is to say, I made tea and tried convincing her of hammocks and cargo slings and how perfectly comfortable a ship's couch could be. Kiri countered with guild precedents, mortality statistics, and the unforgettable phrase, "My fingertips are insured for more than your entire vessel." At last we arrived at détente. She took the bunk, I took the couch. In return, she'd run daily diagnostics, teach me to listen properly, and not rearrange my tool locker without a binding oath and a signed map. We departed 9 needles at dawn cycle, the nebula budding around us in blues and rose golds. Kiri's presence changed the finch's rhythm. She padded barefoot down the corridor, palms brushing bulkheads like she was listening through her hands. She tuned the engine hum up a note until the panels sang. "Feel that?" she asked, guiding my hand to the throttle. "That glide. That's efficiency. That's you." "That's us," she corrected, and the word did something strange and warm in my chest. Scene 6. Pirates and Proof. 3 days into the drift lanes, the Finch's nose stung with collision pings. I spun the chair and dragged the scope wide. Pirate skiffs. 4 of them, slicing toward us with the geometry of hunger. "Hide!" "Yes." Kiri peered at the scope, then at her console readout. "Not from them. But we can dance." She dove for the engine bay. I hauled into evasive, playing chicken with debris. The first skiff overshot. The second licked us with a grazer that scratched paint and pride. Lights stuttered. Kiri shouted from the bay, words lost under the changing pitch of the engine. Then the hum rose into a higher harmony. It felt like riding the crest of a sound wave. The Finch slid sideways, drift spun, and threaded a needle I didn't see until we were through it. The skiffs slammed into turbulence and gave up the chase like angry bees dazed by smoke. When the stars settled, I sagged against the seat, laughing shaky. "What did you do?" Kiri appeared, hair wild, grinning like a star gone nova. "Taught your ship to sing off-key. The nebula's harmonics did the rest. You saved our lives." "Yes," she said simply, and the word wasn't pride so much as fact.